Thank you, Dave, for joining us on LifePoint Extra.
For sure.
It was a great Sunday morning. You preached here at our LifePoint Lake Stevens campus. And now we just get to take some time to unpack your message a little bit, talk through it. So super excited. Thank you for joining us. But before we jump in, I thought it would be pretty fun for our viewers that don't know you to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
With a little fun question. If you could instantly master any skill, whether it's related to a hobby or work or whatever, what would it be and why?
I think it would be singing. Here's why. I think when people are really gifted at singing, songs create energy.
Right.
You can create moods through music and everything else. And it's probably the one thing that AI is not going to replace for a while, right?
Yeah.
If I were to say, I want to write books, AI is going to do that.
Right.
I want to speak another language. AI is going to do that. So I think singing.
Movies, all that kind of stuff. AI is taking over.
Taking over, baby.
Not the singing game yet.
Yeah.
And so Dave would be a singer. Have you ever tried growing up to sing? Were you ever at church and would try to audition or anything?
Yeah, of course. And if you heard me sing, you'd be like, why did you even think? Right? But we've seen that, American Idol and all these things where people think they can sing. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember I was in youth ministry, and so I would try to be the guy that, during the camp, I would bring my guitar.
Okay.
And would try to be that guy to start a little worship set by the bonfire.
Every student pastor, come on, baby.
It was, it's definitely my BC days. But, so in this message series, we're in a message series called Red Flags, talking through relationships, and you talked a lot today about friendships.
For sure.
And so I just want to go through 3 of these questions. And so you talked about the impact friendships have on our choices and our future. Can you share maybe a personal story, though, of a friendship in your life that has maybe left an impact in that certain way for you personally?
Yeah, there's actually a couple. So I have a friend, James Grogan, that I met at 18 years old.
Okay.
He had a love for God. I did as well. We were both thinking, hey, someday maybe we'll be pastors. But I think being around him and pursuing it together actually helped significantly. We both went off to colleges where we learned to be pastors. Even though they were different colleges, we would talk all the time. We'd go to conferences together. Mm-hmm. And so I think having that friendship kept me on that track. Yeah. Versus if I would have friends going into different areas of life, and that's fine. I could have gone into a different area. But I think that was very, very big for me. And we were both part of churches at the time that were insider focused. So eventually he ends up at a church that was outsider focused. It was a church in San Diego. Actually, that's where we met Pastor Rusty.
Oh, really?
All right. So we were all on staff
awesome.
together. But James Grogan ends up there and he calls me and says, dude, I know you and the way you're wired. This is the church you need to be a part of. And so I left the church I was at, went on staff there, and it ended up changing the entire course of how I do church, how I think, and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. So that really just definitely significantly impacted your life because of the time that you spent with that person. Yep. And then they just know you after that. And so they're just like, hey, this is going to be a great fit for you. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. And then just one more quick example. The church I was pastoring in Wisconsin back in 2017 went through just very difficult times. We lost a lease on one of our campuses, our largest campus, mm-hmm. and so we were moving our church multiple times in one year. We were down hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands in giving. I mean, it was just hitting me. At the same time, I have a daughter who is getting help for mental health. She's not living with me. She's living in she's at a special program.
Right.
The stress kept getting me, so my marriage started to fall apart. And I had a friend who noticed this, and he just approaches me one day and says, dude, I love you. Yeah. You need to go get professional help right now. And I pushed off. I said, dude, I ain't got time for it. My marriage isn't as bad as you're making it out to be. He said, you need to get help. He goes, otherwise we got to get some church leadership involved because you're going to implode your life. Wow. At the same time, another one of my friends calls me and says, Dave, I know your marriage is not doing well. Apparently my friends talk among each other, and it wasn't gossip. It was like they were genuinely concerned.
Right.
And I said, dude, just let me have some space right now. And he goes, I said, you don't understand. Church is falling apart. And my own daughter is, in a program. He said, hold on. Why are you so defensive? He said, if the church I'm pastoring was going through what you're going through, he said, if my daughter had mental health issues and was in a program, he goes, my marriage would probably be falling apart too. I'm just calling to pray with you and walk you through this process. And that's when I realized I've got some really good friends.
Yeah. You got the right people in your corner. They're not just going to agree with you all the time, but they're going to be like, hey man, you need some help here. Then they're going to call you out for it. Yeah, that's really good. And that kind of brings me to my next question for you. So when it comes to discerning the right friendships in your life, how can someone practically begin to evaluate which friendships are worth keeping close and which friendships, if they're just evaluating, are not really good for them? Like, what would you kind of advise that person with?
I actually don't think it's that difficult. I think all we need to do is try to pay attention to the people we're hanging out with, their marriage, how they talk about their spouse, right? Their career. Is it someone who just bounces job to job every 2 years and it's always the employer's fault? Right? I think we just need to pay attention to the people around and just say, dude, do I want my life to end up like that? And it doesn't mean we can't ever spend time with them. It's just meaning, man, the way I look at this person's life going, I just don't want to be around them all the time. So I have a group of pastors that 15 years ago, we were all starting churches around the same time. And so once a year, we get together with our wives, we rent a house together. But every one of those people are people who, you don't hear them gossiping about people and talking negative. They're positive people. They're life-giving people. Yeah, they got their flaws, but we love getting together because we realize it's safe. And I think when you pay attention to people, you can tell if it's safe. If they always have to have a new group of friends every 2 years, they're probably not safe. It means they're not long-term with the people who are around.
Yeah, so you would say it's not really complicated.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think that definitely we can overcomplicate a lot. When it just comes to friendships, like, okay, I listened to a sermon today, Dave, like, and now I want to apply this, like, and they're just maybe overthinking it too much. So you would say just keep it really simple. Look at what you want. Look at the direction that you want to go. Who are the people that are actually helping you towards that? And who are the people that aren't really benefiting towards that?
100%. That's exactly what
so, and last question here. You referenced Proverbs and discussing the impact of wise versus foolish friends. My question for you is, how do you balance being gracious and maintaining boundaries with friends who might fall into the foolish category?
Again, I think it's actually fairly easy because you're not having to tell them, I'm spending less time with you. You're just filling up your calendar with other things, right? You're just, hey, can you go out this weekend? Nah, dude, I got stuff I'm doing. Let's go out next month. Or let's get something on the calendar for a couple months. And I actually have friends like this. Well, I actually like being around them. Foolish people can be fun to be around. They don't care about responsibility, finances, any of that stuff. But I am very limited. Sometimes it's saying, hey, if this person's going to be there, then I'm probably not going to be there. Or if we go here, here's what happened. I have to be home by this time. Because I know there's certain people I get around with. You just are having so much fun. Foolish people don't care about responsibilities. And then I'm ignoring my family. I'm ignoring my marriage. And so I just say, I got to be home at a certain time. But I am very, very intentional with people. I don't think it has to be a lot of work. It just, you have to be cognizant. You have to be intentional. That's the big thing.
No, that's great. And as we close, is there anything that maybe you would just want to encourage somebody that just got done listening to this message, listening to just relationships in general and red flags, and maybe in their own life, they feel like a failure in a lot of ways with their friendships? How would you encourage maybe our listeners that are listening right now in that area?
All right. Great question. The good news is in life, we can be going down a wrong path and we can turn around. So I wouldn't say that's easy to do because once you've built your friendship network to try to rebuild another network, but it is possible. And I would say we have to start being very, very intentional, look at people who are like, we admire their lives. One of the things I've done almost all my life is I've looked for people older than, I was going to say significantly older than me, but not significantly. Like one of my best friends right now that I get together with weekly is 65 years old. I'm not even 50 yet. But I get together with them and I'm like, dude, it's life-giving, it's encouraging. And I want my life to move down a similar path, right? And there's, in that particular case, I see a couple things. I'm like, this is where I want my life to end up. There's some things I'm like, he's still learning wisdom in that area, right? And that's okay. Because I think every one of our friends will have areas like that. Like, man, I admire this. They probably need some work in here. But for the most part, it's something that I think we pursue, we go after. It's like, well, nobody invites me to their house. Well, you invite people over. You say, I want to come over. And you don't have to say, I'm trying to rebuild my friend network. Again, this doesn't have to be awkward or weird.
Don't have to be weird.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, come on over, hang out. And if nobody ever wants to come hang out, that's probably a red flag. Then you might need some advice on how to have some, seriously, some relational skills, right? But I think it can be a very natural thing, but you have to be intentional. That's the important part.
Okay, gotta be intentional. That's great. Well, thank you, Dave, for joining us on Extra with LifePoint. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all of our Extra with LifePoint episodes.